I'd love to help you get vulnerable. Let's get naked.
Welcome to the Let's Get Naked podcast. Today we are getting naked with Belinda and a bunch of other people. We have a bunch of different scenarios that we're going to talk about. We're debuting something that we're going to try that we're going to call WAKD, which is WWAKD, and stands for What Would Anne Karber Do? So we've kind of had this, running joke over the years with some of the people that are in my life that throw out different scenarios and or say, what would Anne Karber do? So we're gonna see if that's podcast worthy, and I can't wait to find out. So Belinda is here to kind of read the different scenarios, and then I'm going to tell you what I would suggest. And I don't know what any of these scenarios are, and so maybe show me some grace as I stumble through giving advice on this stuff. So B, you want to throw one out there and we'll see how this goes?
Sure. I'd like some grace also because I have not read these. So we'll see.
Test
my reading skills.
Absolutely. And a big thanks to Casey, because Casey's the one that put all of this stuff together. She's my right hand, and I don't know what I would do without her. So big shout out to her.
I agree.
Yeah.
Perfect. So the first one that I'm going to read says, I am a woman in my late 30s. I have had a few failed relationships and marriage that ended in divorce. At one point, I juggled 3 lovers at one time. I like being in a committed relationship, but I have yet to be faithful to any partner I have ever dated. In my teens, I was raped by an 18-year-old guy and molested by a man who was in his 40s. I received counseling and therapy, started in my late 20s. I love the thrill of meeting someone new and learning what they want for a little while. I mimic and mirror the emotions and make them fall in love. Then I get bored and I move on to the challenge of conquering the next man's heart. I don't want to continue being a cheater, but I lose interest in lovers quickly. I crave the thrill of the chase. How can I learn to be faithful and not be so fickle in love?
This is an excellent question. And I think much deeper than she probably realizes. So lots of good information in that as far as stuff that happened in her past. I would suggest, even though she says she went through therapy, I feel like that's probably maybe surface level stuff, right? Because she needs to heal the underside level of that. So, when you don't have a full cup, when you don't have ways that you validate yourself, then you find validation outside from sources that are not necessarily healthy, right? But you kind of don't have control of that situation, because at that point you're just taking nuggets and crumbs from people that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but that's what fills your cup. And even though you may have holes in the bottom of your cup, it feels really good when someone new pays attention to you. When she says, I'm working on making somebody fall in love with me, or really, become a fan of who she is, and then you get tired of that. Yeah, it's because you're literally feeding off of crumbs from people. And the situation of that being a question from a woman and having that from a man, it's really easy to get attention from men, and when that kind of is what you're using to fill your cup, you got to go all the way down to why is your cup not full from stuff that you're doing, right? Because at that point, then you don't need outside validation from other people. It takes the cheating element out of it entirely, and it puts you back in control of what you're using to fill your cup. So I think she probably doesn't even realize that those nuggets of, men where it's, oh, they think you're amazing, and like all of it, of course they do, right? Like beautiful women, of course, men think they're amazing. But when you use those crumbs, and I did that for a long time too, when I didn't realize that I was supposed to provide my own validation, that it was important for me to make myself happy, that I could do that. I spent a lot of time actually really finding importance in people thinking that I was amazing, and creating a whole thing about creating Anne fans, and that getting a thrill out of doing that. But it's, you don't have to do that, but you do have to do the work to kind of fix the underside piece of that in yourself, to stop the cup from leaking, and figure out the things that actually fill the cup, so that you're not going to outside sources for validation.
Yeah, I think I get out of all of that is she really hasn't recognized that she needs to do the work on herself so that none of that matters.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
it wouldn't even be a thing.
And then it doesn't, right? And that's the whole thing. I've looked at the progression of myself over time, right? And it used to be very important to me that, you know, people thought I was amazing and whatever. And I couldn't care less now. And not in a bad way. Like, obviously you still want people to like you and to think you're great and whatever. But when you're not using those crumbs, you know, when you see it from the outside, it feels kind of gross, just because you are using those crumbs to kind of like put in your cup, because your cup is empty, and that feels great and that feels important. But when you realize you don't need to do that, there's other ways to do that, it's pretty powerful. So
not in a comparison way. I'm not comparing myself to this woman.
Sure.
But having experienced recently a gross situation and knowing and feeling the work that I have done, and I was able to just put it into it, was so fulfilling.
And
like that was so strong.
Didn't you feel
I
so
was
strong?
like, yes.
Yeah. Because normally you would have taken those crumbs.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You would have taken those crumbs. And it's nothing against the guy, right? It really is nothing against the guy. He's just there to be a teacher for whatever that lesson is for stuff.
Sure.
But for you to be able to have done the work, or, you know, started on the journey of the work and realize this isn't what I need to validate me or to whatever, that's,
right.
God, that's powerful.
It's
like
so good.
Way powerful.
It feels so good.
Yeah, and good luck in unpacking all of that stuff, because that's, you know, having sexual trauma as a child, you say you do therapy and whatever, but there's still a lot of gross work that kind of has to go to
A lot.
excavate that.
I feel like I took the crash course.
Yeah. Well, and understanding like you have to fill your own cup,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I think that just goes down to the basics for stuff. And if people don't understand that they are a container that needs to be full, and it helps them really kind of operate their life at an optimal level, if you're empty, or if you're not full, and it does then come out sideways where you're accepting crumbs from people, and that's the cheating stuff. That's low vibe stuff. And again, no judgment, we've all been there. That's not where I'm coming from at all, but definitely understand that there's a choice for that. And it's not just about gritting through and saying, okay, I'm not going to do something on impulse. You know, if something comes up, I'm really going to grit through it and like make the right moral decision. It's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that, because you'll just continue to repeat those patterns if your cup isn't full, because you don't have a choice. You have to be getting those little nuggets from somewhere, and it will easily come from other men giving you attention and paying attention to you and having you make bad decisions based on that.
I love that we're on the other side of things, because we can passionately say, oh my God, it's so much better on this side.
It's so much better on this side. Absolutely. And also like no judgment. Like I have not a judgmental bone in my body when it comes to that kind of stuff, because it's like, I've been in the trenches. I understand all the things. And it's like, I just want to share the information. I want to share the knowledge so that people don't realize, because I didn't realize about the cup thing. I didn't realize that I ran on empty for a really long time. And then it makes, outside validation really seem so important. I don't need outside validation from anybody anymore. It is still nice to have people say that they're proud of you, or like all of those things, but I don't need that to function. And before, it was like, it's almost like you glom onto that, those little nuggets of stuff, those crumbs that people throw you, seem so important. But when your cup is full, it's like, great, that's lovely, and thank you for the compliment. But it's not necessary for you to continue to be who you are, know? So it is really powerful to do the work and get yourself right. Fix your shit,
Yep. Fix your shit.
Fix your shit.
For sure. It's lovely. Okay. Ready for
one.
the next one?
Yeah, I am.
That was good.
That's a good warm-up question. That was pretty.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am happy. Decidedly single woman with a large group of friends who are all married. Most of us grew up together, and all of us have been like extended family for the past 25 years. This year, one of the wives lost 3 family members within 3 months. This has been devastating to her, of course, as well to all of us as we watched her struggle to regain her footing in her new reality. I know firsthand the pain she's living. My problem is she started accusing me of having an affair with her husband. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm torn between trying to remember she is angry and lashing out from her losses, and being deeply insulted and angry at her. I have done nothing inappropriate, nor has her husband. I am shocked that she could think such a thing. We see each other often, and I don't know how to treat her.
how long had they been friends? Like decades? Is that what she said?
Yeah, like 25 years.
Yeah, I would say don't take it personally.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a whole thing. You just laid out all of the reasons why you should show your friend grace in that situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's not coming from a good place. So answering that and just reassuring her that that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, if she keeps accusing you, that's different, right? If somebody accuses you of something and you address it appropriately and say, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but knowing, you know, for the gal that's asking the question, it has nothing to do with her. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with her. That's part of the not taking stuff personally. That gal is going through a hard time. Everything in her world is upside down. You know what I mean? So if that's somebody that you have a great friendship with and you value that, how do you treat her? Exactly the same. Assure her one time about that situation. You don't have to placate to her and try to make her feel better or like change your behavior or change your activities. If you and the husband aren't doing anything wrong and you answer the questions to her that you're not, then don't do anything different. She needs you to be solid and to not, you know, do things different because of that. You know, if you take it personally and then you start modifying your behavior, it makes you look guilty as hell.
Right.
You know, like do nothing, but definitely reassure her and then show her grace.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. She seems very, very sad right now.
Yeah, I mean,
needs the support of a friend.
That's a terrible thing. I mean, that's what friends are supposed to be there for. You know, you look at like what friendships are nowadays, and it's kind of sad the depth of friendships because they're not very deep. I want friends that I'm going to go through, you know, 3 losses in a couple of months. I need friends that are going to be in the trenches with me and hold space for me. Yep. You don't just say anything. Just be there. Hold space for somebody. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean you take things personally and make it about you, and it has nothing to do with you. Her thinking that you're cheating with her husband has nothing to do with you. She's probably so fucked up she doesn't know which way is up.
Yes.
You know?
You keep saying in the trenches, and I just keep getting this vision of just some Army movie I saw, and guys were literally in trenches, and one guy was holding their hands, and literally that's what you're doing. Yeah. Like, it's so crazy.
It is when you realize,
so good.
You know, I also heard something the other day too, where it was talking about, you know, when you need to hold space for a friend or when you have somebody that really needs you and the topics are bigger and bigger and bigger, right? When you're dealing with, when your friend loses 3 family members, that's big shit. Yeah. He said the bigger the problem is that your friend is going for, the fewer words you say. They don't need you to say, everything's going to be okay, this will whatever. Just hold space for them. You know what I mean? Hold them when they cry. Just be there. Be present for stuff. You don't have to say a bunch of stuff because people are always like, well, I don't know what to say. People don't need you to say anything. Do you know what I mean? You just went through a whole huge thing in your life. Did you really need me to say a whole lot? No, just be there. Be there to say, come over, I'm coming over, let's go somewhere. Like whatever it is, just be there to hold space for your friend. You don't have to be an expert in knowing all that stuff. Just be there. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and don't take it personally and don't make it about you.
That's the thing.
Right.
Okay, let's see. You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, I'm excited.
That one was also good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
well, that's big, that's a lot of emotions that's wrapped up into that.
Is.
You know, you read that question, but you think about that, you know, put yourself in those shoes. I can't imagine feeling like you and Cameron were screwing around together. I feel like I would feel devastated for that. Yeah. But I also feel like I've had you in my life long enough. You've been in my life almost 30 years, and Cameron's in my life long enough. If I asked that question and you answered it, then I'm going to believe that. And if you know, shame on you guys if that's a situation that's happening. It's not about me. Yeah. You know what I mean? At that point, I haven't done anything wrong. It's not about me. Yeah. So, you know, don't make it personally, and definitely don't go around to your friends and turn it into a whole thing. I mean, I think that's also a thing in friend groups. Oh, yes. She's probably over there like, can you believe Michelle thinks I'm, you know, screwing so-and-so and what? Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Friends don't need that. You don't need more drama in the group. Like, leave her alone, let her process her stuff and be there for her, but don't turn it into a whole thing in your friend group. Sure. You know?
No more high school shit.
No more high school shit. We're adults. You know, I see too many grown women that act like, and I love you ladies, but we got to grow up.
It's out there, TV land.
That's all TV is. I watch it because, you know, like we always joke around. I love to watch The Housewives. God bless you all because they're just, but God, it's some basic baby bitch shit. I mean, basic baby bitch
I can't even get into it.
I love it because I just go home and like check out and I'm thinking like, is this really what you girls are arguing about? Like and I love it. It's good for TV, but I hope to God that it's, you know, all an act and then they go talk about deep shit after the fact instead of like, can you believe so-and-so thought I was going to look good in yellow? What a bitch. bitch. I'm like, are you serious right now? People have real problems. People have real problems,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Not the complexion of your skin not looking good with the color yellow, and that she didn't remember that. She knows that's a trigger for me. I'm gonna preach this. I'm gonna hammer this one home all the time. It is not your friends' job to manage your triggers. Fix your shit.
Yeah.
I can barely manage my triggers, and now I'm supposed to remember what your triggers are? No idea. No idea. You know, I have no idea.
Nor do you.
And you and I have been
honestly.
friends for 30 years, and I'm fucking plugged into you. But God forbid if I say a word that you didn't like or something that sparked something, and then you're going to come after me for it because I didn't remember that? Fix your shit.
I mean, you say things that trigger me all the time and you don't even know it because I'm like, why did that?
Yeah.
Let's go look into it.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not about you.
Absolutely.
It's just that,
It's not.
that car.
Well, and that's a really lovely like friendship to build on too, you know, because you've told me different things before that were like, I hung up the phone and you were like, that really fucking triggers me. I have to be able to apologize for doing that and then also just stay out of the way and not make it about me. What I could have done is be like, can you fucking believe Belinda got mad at me because I hung up? Because Karen and I and people in our family hang up all the time. If we see each other in person, like we hang up. It's a whole thing. But it bothered you. I want you to be able to say that to me without me taking it personally or making it about me. Because you're going to get curious about why does that bother me and then fix your shit, right? But it's not on me. It's not on me to like turn it into a whole drama thing or be pissed off that you were upset about it. I'm
Right.
sorry that you're upset about it 1,000% because that's not my intent. But then just be a normal friend that tell me if you need what support looks like for you in that situation and I'm happy to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Or if you just that pointed it out and you knew there was something there to work on or whatever. But I'm not going to take that nugget of information and then go create drama in our friend group. I mean, that's outrageous.
I think what what I really lean on you for is when that happens, and then I'm so comfortable with telling you now
Yes.
because I know you're gonna pull it out of me
Yeah.
as far as like think about why
Yeah.
and help me navigate through that, and then boom, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's that quick.
Yeah.
Now,
Be
it's that quick
be
now.
that friend. Be that friend in your
Exactly.
group that encourages people to get curious about why things make them feel a certain way. Because if you do that, you know, I think we've gotten as a society to a point where it's like, oh, that's a trigger, and then people expect you to manage their triggers, and it's like, let's be real friends to each other. If that's a trigger, get curious. Let me remind you to get curious about why do you feel that way. What is it about things that make you feel that way? Go pull that weed. Don't just keep mowing it. Go pull that weed.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to have it so that if someone ever hangs up on you, you lose your shit and it pisses you off and like all of the things. Get curious about why that makes it a thing. Obviously, people shouldn't hang up on each other. That was a different scenario or whatever, but you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I don't want to have triggers. I want to have zero triggers. Every time something bumps into my stuff, I want to get curious. I want to be around people that encourage me to be curious about fixing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to be a better version of myself. You know, I always say my competition is my yesterday, Anne. You know, who was I yesterday? That's my competition. So anytime something gets bumped into, I want to figure it out. I don't want that to be a thing where I just ignore it or push it back down. Let's pull that weed. Yeah, it's going to be messy and hard because a lot of times those roots are hooked to nasty stuff that comes up. Sometimes it's not that big of a deal, you know, but it's like, I don't want to have some boyfriend that I had 30 years ago that still triggers me because they did something and whatever. Like, I'm an adult. This brain is my tool. It doesn't run me. I run it.
Right.
You know, but that's a lot of work to get to that point. That's not always been the case, you know, but it's work that's worth doing, you know?
It's also like now, I say now because 10 months ago I wouldn't have said this.
Right.
It's now I don't even like, why do I even need to worry about what happened 30 years ago?
You don't.
Like, it takes so much energy out, the space that it comes into, and then it's like, ooh, I don't have time for you. Like, I got other things going on. So it's so good to be able to just like sweep it away.
The whole thing, and you don't have
Let
to
it
even
go.
like, you don't even have to go do that. I want to tell you a funny story that happened yesterday to me. So I started getting Thai massages, and when I go get a Thai massage, like mentally, I work on stuff. Right? Because I go for 2 hours, I'm in there, my mind is, you know, help myself to a gummy, go work on it for a couple of hours, you know, whatever. And it's pretty incredible because yesterday the thing that I was working on was the jealousy component, right? We've talked about that, and I've tried to get really in depth of like, where does this come from? Why is this a thing? Like, I'm trying to think back in my life of jealousy in a relationship, jealousy in my family. You know, I was the third girl, and so I really had to work hard for attention, which made me the loud, obnoxious asshole that I am nowadays. So you guys are welcome. That's hardwired in me. I can't fix that, you know. I'm really getting more self-aware about stuff. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. But so I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking, where does this come from? And as I'm laying there in my head, just exploring my head with where does this come from, I thought jealousy is rooted in fear, right? And even though it doesn't spark its head very often for me, when it does, I hate myself for it. I hate feeling that way, because it's not justified. You know what I mean? It's like, it's such a stupid thing. But understanding that it's really rooted in fear, and I made a commitment to myself in the last year of, I will not live in fear. Not for anything, not for stupid things. I'm not going to be afraid of bats. I'm not going to be afraid of, whatever it is, right? I'm not going to be afraid of that. I'm not going to be afraid that someone's going to not be in my life forever, or I'm not going to be, okay, I can handle anything. That's what I'm on this mission to do, is to equip myself with the tools that I can handle anything. So really understanding that the whole jealousy thing is rooted in fear at the base of it, right? It's the fear of loss of that relationship. It's the fear of, like, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I will not live in fear. I literally just reconciled that with myself last night. Now, does that mean now I'm like, all right, let's test it out, So we'll find it. Something's gonna push into it, and I'm gonna be able to say, I will not live in fear. And that's going to be how I combat that whenever it comes up, is I will not live in fear, because I have control over what I decide to do. I know that because I've been changing all of these things about myself. I know that I have control. I know that I'm running my mind. My mind isn't running me, right? And so to just say, you know what? That's a character defect that I don't like. I don't want that to be a thing anymore. So I'm just not going to, Easier said than done, I realize. But when that does come up and I'm bumped into that, I will absolutely reiterate that to myself. I will not live in fear. I will not live in fear. I have done too much work to have fear be the underlying thing of anything, you know? So even though you didn't realize that the jealousy was like, I'm afraid, I'm fearful, I'm whatever. But at the end of the day, that's what's underneath it. And I'm not doing that. So it's like, I don't know, we'll see how it works, but I wanted to share that with you, because that was a big development of stuff where I was like, let's do that.
It's going to work. It's going to work. I mean, it will work. I just did it also. Yeah. And it's very, very... It feels so good.
It makes you feel like Superwoman.
It does.
I mean, seriously, it's like
Wonder Woman, Superwoman, all the heroes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't want to. So for people who are like, I just can't this or whatever, if you start doing the work and just start gaining momentum for how strong you are, and that your mind is a tool, it doesn't run you, you run it, like all of those things. And yes, it takes time, but I'm telling you, like, I've put the work in. It is powerful to just say, that's a character defect I don't want anymore. I can change that about myself. It's not just something that's dealt to me that I have to deal with. Like, no, we'll fix that.
I love it.
I'm going to fix that.
I love it.
I know. It feels excellent, right?
I can't wait for more to happen.
I know.
So you could go, yes.
I know, seriously.
I love it.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one. You tell me.
Let's see if I can find it. Sorry, not prepared.
Okay. That's
Alrighty, here we go. I have a 25-year-old niece. Her name's Meadow, who embraces the hippie style. She's kind and sweet and loves everyone. She has also opposed the establishment. These are in quotes. She's heavily tattooed and has several facial piercings in thick underarm hair.
Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent.
This is a girl who knows what she likes.
I love that.
My son is the complete opposite. He's in the business world and is very professional in his manner and dress. He's getting married in 3 months to a lovely girl. Meadow is invited because she wanted to come. My son is nervous about her coming to the wedding. He doesn't know Meadow that well. They were close as kids, but haven't seen much of each other in adulthood. My son is worried Meadow will wear an outfit that will display the tattoos and her bushy underarm hair. He's afraid she will be a spectacle and her appearance will become the focus of the wedding and not his lovely bride. He's also worried someone will ridicule or comment about her and he will then have to defend her, causing a disruption. None of us are close to Meadow or feel comfortable with her appearance. How do we handle her presence at the wedding? I'm going to let you. This is all. I don't even want to. This is sad. Just love her. Jesus.
First of all, it sounds like you've got some work to do on your son.
Oh my God.
Because if he's so worried about all of those things, like that's exhausting to run all of that shit through your head and to be worried about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Several things. God, alarm bells are firing off
Yes.
as you're reading that. Like lots of different things. Good job, Meadow. Like excellent, right? If we were all the same, what fun would that be?
Right.
Let your freak flag fly, girl. Like do whatever makes your heart happy. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? You don't like underarm hair? Then don't have underarm hair. But if she doesn't mind that and that's her thing, then whatever, who cares? Also, why did she get invited if she's not close to them? If she invited herself and you guys weren't strong enough to say no or just keeping it a private thing for people that are close, then that's on you guys. Also, be adult to uninvite her if you're really that worried about the situation because you don't have time to do the really deep-seated work that needs to happen before the wedding. Get over yourself, right? You're worried about your wedding and someone coming not conforming to what you think should look like. That looks like you have bigger work than just your wedding. Do you know what I mean?
This is a whole big red flag.
I mean, the whole thing is a red flag. Like, you think you're going to control what somebody else is going to wear so that you're comfortable? Do you know how outrageous that sounds?
God, that is.
Do you know what I mean? That's the whole thing. Like, that lady should read back her email to herself. Yes. Do you hear what that sounds like? You're saying you can't handle if somebody doesn't conform to what her son's saying, I can't handle if somebody doesn't conform to what I would want them to wear, which is to cover up tattoos and to make sure that their armpit hair isn't showing or to not have their facial tattoos or it's going to make your other guests uncomfortable. If this doesn't show like a whole, the whole
I need
fix
work.
your shit, right? Also, you have a bunch of shallow guests that don't understand that we're all completely different people. And isn't that so beautiful that we're all different?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that just feels so sad for everyone except Meadow,
Right.
Casey,
we're going to have to take this one offline later.
I know. No, it's true. It's true though. You know what I mean?
It is.
I've been noticing that a lot lately in just watching society. People have a list of things that they have to happen in order for them to be okay, right? Like I can't handle whatever it is. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
You're an adult and you can't handle that somebody else is going to be their unique individual self? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I can't handle that because I'm worried what other people will think. That's pathetic.
It is pathetic. It's very, I don't know. It just doesn't sound right at all.
No.
It's like all wrong.
Like the whole thing is just, I'm sorry to everybody, but there's a lot of work to go around. You should work on your son for being more comfortable in who he is as a human being and being more, accepting and loving of the people that are in his life. If she's not close and she shouldn't have been on the invite list anyways, then have a conversation that just says, you know what, we're so sorry, we're cutting the guest list and
Yeah.
And have that adult conversation instead of like, you're going to worry about your wedding because you're worried a cousin that you haven't seen in however long is going to ruin it for you. That's terrible. Take control of your situation.
It is.
And either get over it or uninvite her, which is sad. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's also not fair to have that be what you're worried about.
That one is it's a lot for me.
That is a lot for me. It brings up all sorts of stuff for me.
Does.
So it's like, yeah. I mean,
I can't say anything because I haven't quite mastered my filtering. So I don't want to say anything.
No. That's not what this is about.
I don't want to say
naked, Belinda.
I do not want to say anything that truly offends people because I am just not.
Are you out of your mind right now?
Yeah.
So you're keeping your clothes on today. Is that what we're saying?
I am definitely keeping my clothes on.
Just checking. Because
I don't want to get us canceled right away.
I don't give a fuck. If you don't like it, change the channel. Like, if you don't like what my answer is to this, then watch a different podcast. Oh my God. Or listen, whatever we do to podcasts nowadays. No.
Yeah, change the channel.
Change the channel. Okay, what's up? What's next?
Let's do this one.
Okay.
I'm a millennial. I'm successful in my career and lucky to have a loving husband and 2 amazing children. I am, however, trying to remind myself to be better and not bitter in another huge area of my life. The world is changing so quickly, especially in the field of in vitro fertilization. I know I have much to be thankful for, but I'm finding it a hard pill to swallow that many of our older parents are choosing to have another set of kids in their later years. My father, who is in his mid-60s, just had twins with his third wife. His children are younger than mine. I feel entirely replaced by his new family. Rather than being a present father and grandfather, he has nearly disappeared. I thank God that my mother is a proud and devoted grandmother to my grandchildren. In addition to disappearing act, Dad has decided to leave all assets to his third wife and the twins. They call my kids their twin cousins. A number of my friends also have a parent who has chosen to start their lives over in this way, including their mothers who in the late years have had babies by surrogate. This is so painful. How do I and the younger generations overcome this feeling of abandonment?
Well, in the very last question is exactly where she brought it up. The rest of the stuff doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the different components of it are, right? You have you have abandonment issues that need to be fixed, because once you do that, none of it matters, right? And
your dad, fall off.
Right? Your dad having a third wife and leaving his money, keyword in that, his money to other people, it has nothing to do with you, right? Like, I think a lot of times in families, people don't realize that, like, your dad is his own person and he gets to do whatever he wants. He's not just your dad. He's not just a grandpa to your kids. He can be a present dad or a present grandpa or not a present dad or not a present grandpa or whatever. And that's his choice, how he wants to run his life. Don't take it personally, right? Like, it has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. So you think that it does because your dad's going to leave his money to somebody else. It's not your money, right? Kids that think that your parents automatically leave their money to you, well, newsflash, that's also not how that goes, right? So wouldn't count on that either. Fix your abandonment issues, where they come from, and fix that within yourself, and then it won't matter. You know what I mean? Then it's, yep, that's what people do. They're able to do that. You know, you wouldn't want someone that would come to you and say, I don't think you should be able to have kids or do this or do that from the outside. Stay in your own lane. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's your dad's lane. Your dad gets to do whatever the hell he wants to in that lane. If you don't like it, put a boundary up that you're not going to have a relationship with him, right? But it's not your responsibility to, construct things in a way so that it's comfortable for you, right? Okay. People don't realize that. They think like, okay, all of these are like the components of stuff. So my sister is this way, and my family is this way, and my dad is this way. And as long as all of these things line up, as long as your dad acts right as a father and as a grandfather, as long as he doesn't go on with his life and do other things, then you're going to be okay. That's outrageous. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's his own individual person. He can go do whatever he wants to. So how do you deal with any of that? Deal with your abandonment issues. The rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Literally, the rest of it doesn't matter. You'll fix your abandonment issues, and then you'll also realize that it doesn't matter. And then if you want to have a relationship with him, you'll be grateful. I love her approach of, I want to stay, be better than bitter. 1,000%. Resentment is like, this is the oldest thing in the book, but resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping the other person dies. Resentment is the worst thing that you could possibly leave inside of yourself. And she sounds very resentful for stuff, which comes from the fear of abandonment and all of the things that go into that. Again, abandonment, it stems from fear as well, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to really dive into that and fix that, and that doesn't have to be a bunch of therapy. Journal about it. Get curious about, why do you feel abandoned? What made you feel abandoned? You can heal that part of yourself from wherever that started within yourself. Like you have the capability to do that. I think a lot of people don't realize. They're like, well, I can't afford therapy and I can't this. Has nothing to do with that. Like, yes, great, but there's so many different resources that you can have out there, self-improvement books that you can get from the library that are addressing the things that you're doing. The internet, which is, oh my God, endless with resources for you to figure that stuff out. Really just getting curious, sitting quietly and chewing on that kind of stuff. Again, I joke around about the Thai massage thing, but I get more stuff done when I'm there laying there with my mind just wandering and just being curious about, as I'm exploring things, and why do I feel this way, and being curious about this, and where does this stem from? Be quiet. Put your phone down. Stop numbing yourself. Get curious about why you feel that way, because when you fix that in yourself, then you don't have to construct things to be a certain way so that you can handle it. Then you can just handle anything. And it doesn't matter if your dad's 80 putting babies in 25-year-olds. Okay, excellent. It's not your money. It's not your life. It's not your lane,
Yeah. Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with all of it. I was trying to stay focused because I'm I'm learning from you also.
Are you?
So I'm like taking mental notes, and it's like, okay.
But it's true. Like
it's all true.
When you realize life is not about constructing things around you so that it's, that's a whole Michael Singer thing. Mm-hmm. It's not about constructing things around you so that you're comfortable and that nobody touches your triggers. Fix your shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually very simple. In my head, it's very simple.
Yeah.
It's you are you. You have your life to deal with, and that's enough. So why are you mucking around with everyone else's?
I know.
Like, why would you want to?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to pick up their luggage?
Yeah.
Why would you want to take their worries on as yours?
Yeah, but we've just been doing that for so long. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We've been doing that for so long where it's like everybody's so intertwined with other people's drama and like making up shit that's not even a thing. How do you handle it? You deal with your abandonment issues and the rest of it doesn't matter. Then you don't have to deal with any of the rest of that. Then you get to decide whether you want to have a relationship with them or not. You get to decide whether you want your kids to have a relationship with, your basically siblings then that are your children's age. Like, again, life doesn't have to look any specific type of way. Like,
and look at how grateful you should be in that, because that your family is so big and your kids get to have more family, and it's just a lot of love.
Perspective.
It's all a lot of
about
love.
Perspective, right? Or you can be the one that causes drama, and like, you get to choose. For me, it's about perspective. I'm going to see it from the great thing. Excellent. The IVF thing is a big thing because I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, they shouldn't be. Who gets to decide? Who gets to decide who gets to use it, who doesn't?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Who gets to decide whether it's right or whether it's not? If it's not right for you, don't do it.
Right.
And then stay in your own lane.
No one's going to tell me what I can do. Don't tell you.
I know, right?
I've always said that. My mom don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me what to do.
Everybody should just stay in your own lane. That's not hurting you, And if it is, fix your shit. It's bumping into your shit.
Oh my gosh.
All right, next one.
I'm just going to go start from the beginning because
Sure.
I pulled out just a few.
Okay.
I have always been the outsider in my family.
What? I'm sorry.
The outsider.
Outsider, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My grandma raised me because my mom was an alcoholic and ran the streets with her boyfriend. My grandma died 3 months ago, and I have been having a hard time dealing with it. My mother has moved into my grandma's house and wants me to come visit her. This is a problem because everywhere I look, it reminds me of my grandma. I've told her this, but she thinks since she's painted and decorated everything differently, it shouldn't be a problem for me. I'm the only child who has anything to do with her. She gave up my oldest sister, and she uses guilt when I don't come out and help her clean or go to the grocery shopping for her. I was raised to believe that we should take care of our elders, but still have issues with not being in my life growing up. I don't know how to handle without just refusing to go. What should I do? The wording is a little off right here. Sorry about that. Did you get it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's... God bless America.
So sorry.
I know. It's, here's the thing. Put a boundary in place and don't have a relationship with your mom if you can't handle it. Or fix your shit.
That's like the answer to everything. Just fix your shit.
Fix your shit. Because you can't handle going over there and seeing that and whatever. I get it. And listen, grief is the mother of emotions. It's the biggest one. Grief is an iceberg, and it takes everything to get through that. I lost my sister unexpectedly when she was 39 years old. It took me out of the game. It messed me up. I understand grief is a big one, but then protect yourself in that situation. So if you're not in a position to be able to have a relationship with your mom at this time because you're not in a position to be able to fix whatever it is that bothers you and the resentment from stuff, but of course she has resentment for her mom for abandoning her when she was a child. Of course she's going to, in her mind, in her heart, pick her grandmother over her mom. Now it feels like mom's coming in, taking over for grandma. That's not what's happening, but that's exactly how that woman is going to perceive that, right? Mm-hmm. And so because you don't have base layer stuff that's fixed, it's just you're piling stuff on top of it and on top of it and on top of it. And so then it just continues to be this whole big problem. So maybe just tell your mom that you need some time to work through some stuff and then realize that it's within you to be able to fix that. You have to be able to forgive your mom. Not for your mom, for you. Right. We all had messed up stuff that happened in our childhood. If we don't go back and figure out how to find forgiveness for those people. Again, not for those other people. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is not for the other people. That's a big step in a foundation of really fixing your shit, is being able to find a way to recognize your part in situations and forgive the people that were involved in hurting you, you know,
Right.
because there's no power in being the victim. You know what I mean? So if you're a victim in your own life, in your own story, right? If you're the victim that said, my mom did this and whatever, if your mom was an alcoholic and was running the streets and whatever, know that she was a sick, empty, broken person. You know what I mean? She wasn't in a position to be able to choose you over something else. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, that's just how addiction and alcoholism works. You know, it's not somebody who's in their right mind that's like, screw my kids, I'm going to go do this. It doesn't occur like that. But I think a lot of people who haven't maybe done the work to figure that out feel like that, which is why there's a lot of resentment and stuff that goes into there. So in that story, there's hurt feelings for days, you know, and you have to really be able to heal from that. And maybe that's something that you're not able to do when your mom is in your ear or actively, you know, trying to be in your life. So maybe ask for space in that situation. You know, Mom's support from me right now looks like you giving me space so that I can work on this, because I do want to have a relationship with you. Or I don't want to have a relationship with you, Mom, because I can't handle this and I can't get over it. And you can say that too. That's totally fine. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't want to do that, do the work, but don't stay in her life and then just continue to cause drama in your own life, because that's what that will do. You know what I mean? Every time she asks you to come over or asks you to whatever, it's, oh, and you're bitching about it. And now look what I have to do. And then you're complaining to other people. You're creating your own drama in that situation. Mm-hmm. Either put a boundary in place that I'm not going to do this, or work on fixing it.
Right.
You know?
This is a familiar story.
Is
and
it?
I feel like a lot of women, or just kids, children in general, have this where they need to forgive and their parents for not knowing better when they were younger.
Yeah.
I have this scenario. I stepped away from my mother for a while. And because I could remember a handful of things that I thought that I needed apologies for, you know, that I was angry about. And then as I grew up and then I chose to heal myself and to get better, I forgave her one by one. And our relationship is so solid right now. I can talk to her about just about anything. Yeah. She can give me advice and it doesn't burn me.
Absolutely. Isn't that crazy?
It feels loving.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And I really, this one really hits me really. Yeah.
That took a lot of work for you to get to that place with your mom.
It did.
Do you know what I mean? You have to want that, you know, because you do have to be able to do that. I see a lot of people who, that person owes me an apology. You know, well, you're putting the power and the control in someone else's hands because you're expecting that they deliver whatever it is that you need, that you've constructed in your head, that you need to be okay, right? Instead of coming from the approach of, I can handle anything, you're saying, I have to have all of these things constructed a certain way, and people have to act a certain way in order for me to be okay. I have zero interest in running my life that way. Zero interest. There's no control in that, right? I'm saying, if you apologize to me, and then it's like, but you have to apologize to me right, too. I mean, like, how outrageous is that that's what you're hanging up your emotional you have preferences in how someone apologizes to you. Yes. You have expectations for things. Well, of course you're going to be miserable. We provide all our own suffering by doing that, right? You owe me this. You owe me that. Get real. That's not healthy to do it like that, you know? And you're setting yourself up for failure in that situation. So being able to offer forgiveness to your mom, knowing that she did the best that she could, right? I think if you can really get to a place, and I know it's not easy, this one took me a long time as well, but in really understanding, not just saying it, not just understanding it, but really feeling it, that inherently people do the best that they can with what they have. You know, so if you look back at your parents and how they raised you, oh my God, we can absolutely all find nothing but faults, right? My kids can look at how I raised them and go like, oh my God, what a mess she is. Or you can look at it from the other perspective that says, my mom did the best that she could with what she had at that time, whatever it was, and be able to look at the positive things. You know, it's like a gratitude journal, right? You can start your day and say, here are all the shitty things that I don't have or that went wrong. Or you can look at it from the perspective of, Here are the great things that I have and the things that are going right. You get to choose. You get to choose. And it literally is that simple. I know it seems crazy, but if you change your perspective down at the base of who you are, all about perspective. If you change the perspective from down at the base of who you are, it changes everything for you. You know what I mean? It takes the power back for you, and knowing that, like, I don't need an apology from her. I don't need blah, 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 blah. I'm going to forgive her. I'm going to offer forgiveness, not for her, but for me. I'm not going to be resentful for things. Being very diligent about getting resentment out of your house, and by your house I mean just you individually, right? Your four walls. Getting resentment out is a big task, but when you do that and then stay vigilant about not allowing resentment to come back in, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. I was drowning in resentment before I got sober. Literally drowning in resentment for everything.
For multiple people.
And it was my own damn fault. It was my own damn fault.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to that whole thing of like, I'm doing everything for everybody. Well, who asked you? Anne Karber. Who asked you?
I love Cameron for saying that.
Oh my God. You know, it takes a big pair of balls to stand up to next to me and say shit like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, he and I are meant to be together. I truly believe that. But yeah, like, because he wasn't being an asshole when he said it. He wasn't coming from a bad place, but he most certainly was, who asked you to do all of that? Mm-hmm. Well, that shut me down in like a real hot second, you know, but so not only am I then taking things from people where I say, I can do that better, let me do that for you, right? But then I hold it against you after the fact, and I'm resentful towards you for allowing me to basically honor my request of taking something from you in the first place,
Good God,
right?
Anne.
I mean, again, what a mess. But when you say it out loud, right? Like, if you're doing the work, to our listeners, if you're doing the work and something makes you feel like, oh, and you're like very righteous in that moment, you know, and you feel like whatever, just like while you're driving around in your car, say it out loud to you, to yourself. Run the scenario. Put the shoe on the other foot and think, if somebody did that to you, whatever that scenario is, and I will guarantee you it will help fix some of your stuff, because you're like, outrageous that I even feel like that would be my right to demand, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
It's outrageous, you know, but it's like, it's really, you got to look in the mirror. You got to be willing to look in the mirror to do the work, because we are all messed up. Every single one of us. And the stuff that we try to put out there to like make everything okay so that we can handle stuff, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yep. You're setting yourself up to be miserable. You're creating your own suffering. Yep. I believe that.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
That was a really great one.
That was a good one.
Let's do this.
Okay. How do you feel like it's going so far, Belinda?
I like it.
Okay.
I'm learning so much.
Okay.
I'm going to definitely take it home and do some journaling.
I can't wait to hear what Casey says afterwards.
Woo.
To see if she likes it or not.
All right. My husband and I were raised with religious communities. Among other conservative values, we were taught that a wife is to be responsible for domestic labor and a husband is to be a primary breadwinner outside of the home. Yes, even in the 90s and the 2000s. We were still deeply involved in the communities when we were married at 21 and 22. I wasn't physically attracted to my husband at the time of our courtship or marriage, but he was, and still is, very kind to me. I was led to believe that I was following God's path by getting married, and the union allowed me to escape my domineering father. The initial relief and freedom I experienced slowly evolved into feelings of resentment when I started realizing my husband is not equipped emotionally or intellectually to provide for the family I hoped for. Luckily, we have agreed that many of our family's traditional values are simply not serving our needs. I now enjoy a career and provide the majority of our income. I'm still responsible for most of the housework, despite the conversations about balancing labor. My husband recognizes that he needs to step up, but has struggled to follow through. Men doing housework was not modeled for him growing up, which makes it challenging. His heart is in the right place, but that doesn't help me. I feel burnt out and alone. We have been in marriage counseling for a year. Nothing has changed. I'm turning 30 this year. Oh, God.
I know.
And
it's hurting my soul to listen to this one. Like, really hurting my soul. Keep going.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
I'm turning 30 this year and started to despair about the future of our marriage and the possibility of having children. I wanted a partner I can count on, and I'm chasing a fantasy. Thank God they don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, run like hell.
Oof.
Run like hell. There's red flag. I mean,
He hasn't
feels
changed.
Like a carnival. It feels like a carnival of red flags.
He hasn't
Do you know what I
changed.
mean? Like, you weren't sexually attracted to your husband when you were courting or when you got married. Listen, I get it. It feels like they're telling my story.
Mine
Oh
too.
my God. Oh my God. So run like hell. It doesn't matter where it comes from as far as religious or whatever. It's not getting better. I don't give a shit what was modeled to you or not modeled to you.
Yeah.
Women that are going to pull half of the weight as it relates to the workforce and then still be expected, right, by their husband or somebody to carry more than half of the cognitive load of running a house or the labor of running a house as it relates to that, run like hell. A year's too long. A year's too long for him to not be able to get over that. That's tough shit. You weren't raised that way, okay?
Right.
But you've been risen, right? And we're adults now,
Right.
and so there's a weekly chore, chart. And if old boy isn't taking care of his half, right? Am I wrong?
No,
no. I wouldn't put more good time after bad in that situation.
No, because it's already resentful.
It's
so much resentment.
And you can get over that. I believe that. I've worked through resentment. I've done all of the things as it relates to that, so I totally get it. But it doesn't sound like he's really interested, because if you have a conversation for a year where you say, I'm pulling in more money than you are, right? So theoretically, he should be pulling more weight around the house. You can have dinner ready when I get home, is what I would say if I were her. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if he doesn't want to do it, then that's not a partnership. Right. And honestly, if you were getting away from your father in a situation and you were religious and that was your way out and like all of the things, I totally get it. But your life has barely started at 30. Run like hell. Find some man that sweeps you off your feet, that sweeps the kitchen as well.
Right.
And if you want to work or don't work, I don't care about the roles as it relates to that. I really have no opinion as it relates to that. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom and that's where your heart is and you pair up with a partner that loves that for you and you're going to do the cooking and the cleaning and the children raising and all of that stuff, absolutely excellent. But to not feel like someone is an equal partner with you, it's a non-starter. It's a non-starter. And for him to say, I wasn't raised that way, it wasn't modeled for me, I don't give a shit. My dad was never around. Grow up, right? Like he never had any responsibilities at the house. Do you think I live in a world where I'm going to pull in half the income and then I'm also going to go home and do all the things too? Not a chance. Not in my world. Not in my world. And again, she's 30.
Yeah.
I would say cut your losses. Tell old boy, thank you for the experience and for the lessons that I've learned. Time to move on. And I don't give a shit about religion and people that think we have to stay married and whatever. If you want to choose to be miserable your entire life because you can't get over the deep-rooted shit that religion, organized religion puts into you, fix your shit. Fix your shit.
Mm-hmm. I have there's a lot of similarities in here for me that are just like, I remember you telling me, you got to leave him. You got to leave him. It's not right. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't hearing you. Mm-hmm. And like, how many years later?
Mm-hmm. I know, look at
and
you.
I didn't do it.
You've never looked better.
I didn't do that. I am so grateful for him doing and standing up and being so strong in that it has helped both of us. And yes, it should have happened or could have happened a long time ago, but divine timing.
Divine timing. Right?
It's all about timing.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? Here's the whole thing. Like, we're not meant to be miserable, And if he's not your guy, if I ever said, someone doesn't do it for me, right? Like, this is my guy, but he doesn't grease my peach, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, not a chance. Your guy better do it for you.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we all have to stay buff and amazing and never have any, like all the things, but he better do it for you. That's part of having a partner that doesn't all have to be just sexual attraction. I mean, it's a whole thing, but it doesn't sound like it sounds like her marriage is very lackluster.
Yeah.
And what I'm telling you is you're only 30 and
you got a lot of years.
You got a lot of years.
A lot of mileage left.
Go find somebody that makes you live out loud,
For sure.
Right?
I'll take that advice.
I love it. I know you will. I love that. I love that for you. All right, let's do one more.
All right. My husband is the oldest of 5 with 4 younger adult sisters. Many people ask if he's the favorite since he was the firstborn and the only male, but it couldn't be further from the truth. My mother-in-law favors her daughters to the point of almost ignoring my husband. When it comes to grandchildren, she's obsessed with her granddaughters' children and pretty much ignores our children's existence. She visits the other 10 times she visits others 10 times for every one visit to ours. When my husband has spoken to her about it, she says just doesn't see it. Our children have been hurt by her more times than I can count. How can I make her see the pain she continually causes for our family? First of all, sorry I struggled in that one.
That's okay.
But I want to know what you think, because there's parts of this that reside in my family or people that feel that way. I mean, if they feel that way, that's the way they feel. And it doesn't matter what's actually happening.
Yeah, but she's not going to convince somebody else of something. Like her question was, how do I make somebody else see that? You don't, right? Shore things up in your own household so that you protect your kiddos, right? If grandma doesn't want to have a relationship with you, but she does want with other whatever, don't make it a whole big thing. You know, like go the extra mile to be amazing to your children and don't involve them in adult issues. You know, because when you involve kiddos in things like that, I just don't think that's the right move. You know, protect them in that situation. And, you know, grandma doesn't have a lot of time for stuff and whatever, not to make excuses for her, but just to make it so that your kids don't feel that so much. You know, a lot of people don't have super close relationships with grandparents. It's unfortunate, but I'm not going to force something that's not there.
Right.
You know, again, those people are human beings that have their own lives. They don't just play the grandparents to your children or the parent to your husband. You know what I mean? So the idea of how do I make someone see it goes back to how do I make things so that it's okay around me.
Right.
It's not going to be. Obviously, they don't want to be involved with your kids or, you know, or there's something that's blocking that. So just pull back and just protect your kiddos and, you know, get them plugged into other things. Or maybe she has parents that are her parents that are, you know, better grandparents that you can focus more energy on. You know, Cameron's parents are not active participants with my children at all. That would be like me saying, let me go convince them. Let me go show them how hurtful it is that they're not around. They're not. I'm not going to talk with my kiddos about it. I'm going to focus on the good stuff that happens in our kiddos' lives. And if they don't want to be active grandparents, that's on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not my lane. I'm not going to tell them that, you know, and I wouldn't want someone to come tell me the kind of grandparent that I need to be. You know, maybe I'm not going to be the kind of grandparent that wants to snuggle up and make cookies and do all of that stuff and spend a bunch of time with your grandchildren. Maybe I never want to see my grandchildren. Maybe I hate children. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you're going to come try to tell me and convince me. Maybe they do play favorites, right? Everybody has favorites in their children. Who's the kids that are the easiest, that whatever? You know what I mean? Maybe your mother-in-law doesn't like you. I mean, does it matter? Right? You don't have control over that. You don't have to go figure out a way to be able to go convince her of something. Just put the boundary in place and then you protect things in your house. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, you're not gonna convince other people to act a certain way so that it's more comfortable for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. There's it's just I don't know. Again, other people are worrying about other people and it's
worry about yourself.
Yeah.
Worry about what's happening within you and realize that if stuff doesn't feel right, you know, back to the gal that's 30 and she's saying to her husband, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. And there's not anything that you have to do to try to conform to something else, right? That doesn't feel right in your gut, in your knowing, then fix it.
Yeah.
Right? That's how you get in alignment with your authentic self, is take care of yourself, because she knows. It's all over in her post about stuff. Same thing with the other gal, like, oh, she's not this. You can't control other people.
Right.
Worry about what's happening within yourself, reconcile that, set yourself up for success by not having expectations of what other people are going to do for you to be okay. Yeah. You're okay either way. There's lots of kids that don't have grandkids. They don't need your husband's mom to be part of that, right? Like,
right.
My kids have grandparents that don't know a lot of stuff about a lot of things and aren't plugged in at all for all sorts of reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to make it a big deal. I'm not going to make my kids feel bad about it. Like, that's just the kind of grandparents they are. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much, Belinda, for coming
gosh.
today and trying out this new whacked concept.
I liked it.
Do you?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was good.
Well, we'll see. We'll hopefully get some feedback from the listeners and find out if this is a viable concept, you know, because I think, again, just coming from a place of experience, and here's a suggestion for making things okay, not a place of judgment. We've been in all of these situations, you know, they resonate with us for different things, but being seasoned women of a certain age, we can say, I wish I had someone to tell me in my first marriage, run like hell.
Yeah.
Or don't do that. Or, do you know what I mean? I wish I had an experienced auntie that was like, oh, honey, you don't have to do that. I wish I had that, you know? So maybe this will bring a little bit for people. Who knows? For this week's May I Suggest? That's a good one. May I suggest just getting curious about yourself?
Yeah.
You know, something that doesn't feel right in your gut. Get curious about what that is, because we have it in ourselves to fix that stuff. If you have suggestions or questions, or if you have a scenario that you think would be fun to have answered on our next whacked episode, please send us an email. Our email address is ladies@letsgetnakedpodcast.com. And until next week, that's a wrap. Thanks, guys.
I'd love to help you get vulnerable. Let's get naked.